recording on them. So,
Meeting is now live on Facebook.
Welcome to Facebook, everybody.
Speaking of the deep state.
What's up? I want to make sure that
It says we are now streaming.
We are live and direct. What's up, everybody? Q loves you coming to you live. It is a Monday night zinger. It's been a lot of things going on here. It's a full moon session of Mindful Mondays. Decided to take a little journey after the last few weeks and go. It's not a rabbit hole anymore. It's been brought out to the world about this UFO situation that the government is now admitting. So felt the need to bring on my good friend Patrick Ney here.
Good evening, Q.
What's going on?
Connectic.
See? Star Trek it is.
Sorry, my references messed up. I apologize. That's uncalled for and not okay.
What's wrong with that? What'd you say?
Well, this is Live Long and Prosper.
Yep.
And Connectic is from Land of the Lost, where the Sleestack, who was like cool, would say, Connectic, that just means goodbye or something.
Yes.
And then they ate him.
Well, okay. Well, I think part of this thing here right now, first thing everybody talked about today when I was talking about coming
Quick, get Joe Rogan on the phone.
Yeah, getting UFOs. Everybody's like UFO. Well, look, we can say everything we want, but it's out there right now, and there's people are admitting that they're doing research into this, including our government. Now, what did I do? I'm not an expert on this. Patrick isn't an expert on this. I've certainly.
Yes, I am actually.
Well, you are. Well, you are an alien, so that makes sense.
Okay.
But
yeah, man.
But I've been into the UFO thing quite a bit. I mean, I've had friends and family that have said some very interesting stories to me over the years. Growing up in Las Vegas, I was Las Vegas for 14.
Yeah, that's the drugs, not Vegas. Well, not UFOs.
It's a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we got here today because of you start to see these little blips of things that the mainstream media start to toss out at us, right? And UFO has been something that's been popping on the screen for the last couple of months. But the other day it was I think I had a blip of one that said, Trump is going to push back the elections, and Trump threatening to push back the elections. And then 3 minutes later, it was Pentagon, UFOs, yada, yada, talking about that. And I was like, what? It was all within 3 minutes, but I felt very surreal. So I had a little Instagram story for those that maybe saw that. And I asked, what would they think would happen first? Would it be the elections getting pushed back, or mainstream media admitting and coming clean that there's absolutely UFOs? And we did a poll, and 96% said UFOs. 96%. What do you think? I mean, I know you're talking about, well, there's no way the election gets pushed back, but I mean, come on, UFOs over the election getting pushed back? I guess that's the way we think nowadays. I said something like 100 million people believe in UFOs in the US or something crazy like that. There's like some weird, crazy number of people. Well, it's not crazy because there's a lot of evidence of things out there, right?
There's also a lot of Mormons. Have you noticed the coincidence?
No.
Okay.
No, I have.
I'm just trying to confuse people like they do on the internet.
Well, that's it. Well, and then that's it right now, right? So some people that I talked to they're just throwing this out here just to add more chaos in our minds, to make the ground underneath our feet that much weaker, right? To make us like, oh, well, now it's just something else to add to it, like whatever. But like Joe Rogan was saying, right? We're like 2 episodes or 2 things away from being a UFO invasion.
Yeah, but Q, I'm going to be devil's advocate, obviously, in this. Joe Rogan has said many things that aren't true or haven't come true. But he will sit there with a big cigar and tell guys with beer bellies in Salem, Massachusetts, who sit there and worship him, that it's like he's the greatest thing. And like, Q, I'll say this a million times, when we don't have an answer for something or we don't like the answer, we simply make one up. That's what I don't like about these conspiracy guys. And they're all, the mainstream media, as you call it, and Fox News, which is more mainstream than anything, they're all making money. Everyone's making money. These conspiracy guys, Joe Rogan's making $100 million on
Well,
whatever the new, like, not YouTube, but the other download music thing. And it's like they're all making money. And it's like, it's funny that that's the one thing everyone has in common in the netherworld, is that they all want to make money. And we're the only ones not making money. So we're probably the only ones telling the truth.
well, you know, I mean, look, again, I'm not saying bring up Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan's the end all be all, and I listen to Joe Rogan and he's like guides my life. Like that's not what I'm getting at,
But
right?
I didn't say that. But when
Right.
he becomes, do you understand Joe Rogan's like background? I do. I'm a comedian.
Okay. But you're talking about them, but Joe Rogan at the same time gives there's a lot of great interviews with a lot of great information. Okay. He's got some good shit out there too. It's not like he's just spraying stuff out of it. I mean, he talks
No,
about some
I
good
didn't say
things.
that. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, you know, but you can't, I'm not saying Joe Rogan, okay, conspiracy theories. Yeah. Beer bellies. Okay. Some people, I mean, look, I'm starting to get a belly. But what I've done today is, look, the Mindful Mondays are not about conspiracy theories per se. It's about thinking about something in a logical aspect and not going down one way, right side, left side. But UFOs have become something that have been tangibly, I guess, recorded, and there's a lot of evidence, and in a lot of cases, from what you know, from me, from what I've read and all the things I watch and all the things I could be crazy or not discerning, but there's a lot of information that to a lot of people, you know, if you had so much information in a court of law, there's no way in hell that you say that's not real. Like there's so much info.
Absolutely. Okay. I remember seeing, you know, UFOs myself and being like, holy shit, what is that? That is mind boggling. Things that are in a triangle and then split off. And I mean, I remember seeing this in like where I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, like on a cold winter night, skies clear as a bell. There's not a lot of light pollution. And I saw something that like was bizarre, that I've never seen before, that a typical, you know, thing couldn't, like, you know, our technology couldn't do. And in the same sense, I remember being in that same park as a 5-year-old, and you would see an actual missile rise up because there was a site there, and it would be there. And I kept going like, when is it going to go off? And that's probably like, you know, mid 70s when the Cold War was hot. And, you know, there's a lot of real ways to look at it, because I believe they're out there. There's no question. But here's a big thing, is that once they let off the nuclear bomb in probably 44, 45, you know, that's a pretty big, like, hey, what's happening in universe?
Right.
And so meanwhile, like Gorg in like 10, you know, space things over is like, hey, Schnog, they just blew up something in sector 24866 in the quantum league, and like they're like, oh, we better go check that out. So let me tell you this. I would think that if you have the ability and the brains to create a device that can travel through time, because you are, I mean, Einstein's theory of time travel is true. If you and I get on a rocket ship and go like hell, when we come back, it's, you know, 2320. So if they're that smart and they have discovered how to move around space like this, I don't really think they're coming here to, like, this is like going to an antique show. I mean, it's like, what's the point? You know, we have gold, or we have, you know, Jim Cameron's like spice or whatever. It's just like, what could we give them? Well, and they're not going to eat us because they're probably vegetarians because they figured it out.
Yeah, but look, here's the bottom line is, regardless if we go down that aspect or not, look, the government started coming in on this, and this is the main reason we're bringing this up, is because the government's starting to tout it, right? They're starting to say, this is going on. This is what we're doing, right? This is the kind of thing that they're starting to admit, finally coming out. I mean, so, you know, you can Wikipedia a lot of this stuff, and a lot of people have, and a lot of people don't. But I mean, there's stuff back in like things called Project Sign and Project Grudge and Project Blue Book that they all went on for, I mean, this went on for 30, 40 years after the Roswell thing, which everybody knows about. We don't have to dig into all that, right? But which has supposedly been debunked.
What's close to Roswell? What's close to Roswell?
Nuclear sites.
Well, that's where they let it off. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's shows that talk about, well, the nuclear aspect of it, you know, brought all the science, like we said, brought all these people here and whatever these things are supposedly. But to to say that, people are like, no, the government's not in on something. Well, look, they've admitted they're in. I mean, so we've got, all the way from Project Blue Book, which went on to the 70s, and they did studies upon little studies, and they did a whole bunch of, go down the list of what you find on here, but it's they started back off again in like 2007, right? Harry Reid, who was pushing it because of Area 51 in Vegas, was like all over this. I mean, he had a thing called what they called the AATIP, which is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And that led off in 2007. That supposedly ended in 2012. But like, he brought all this information. I mean, printed out his letter that he wrote to Senate in 2009 to try to get this going more for these guys. But anyway, we'll kind of jump over that. But they jumped into 2012. This was supposed to have ended. And then in 2017, the government goes ahead and admits and said, the Department of Defense confirmed that there was a defense program used collecting UFO sightings and stuff like that. And they call that now the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Or no, they call that the, what am I saying? The Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, the UAP. So they used to call everything UFOs, but now they call it the UAP, right? Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. That's the big thing they talk about. And that was set up for like the Navy and Air Force and all these people to start accumulating supposedly information, right? But the biggest thing is they said the AATI, I gotta say it, the Advanced Aerospace Threat, first one, they said that was done in 12, and then they hit it again, right? So just these little things about these little lies, and then going ahead and finding out, like I think it was June of this year, Marco Rubio, he requested, because he's part of like the intelligence committee or whatever, to release this stuff because they were.
Says you.
What's that?
Says you.
Says me what?
Intelligent.
Oh no, yeah. Well, no, I won't get all that. But but this information that they had on these, Pentagon had on these, they were trying to release it, saying, listen, I mean, we need to know about this stuff, and stuff needs to be out there. But they are now, fully saying that this is what we've got going on right now. And now, so this is an ongoing thing, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, that is alive and kicking and making money and quiet. And they only release so much stuff. And I think they have like 180 days from what I was understanding. So once they came up with this, they have the, what is it? The Freedom of no, it's not the Freedom of Information Act. But it's the Intelligent Authorization Act, I think, the passage of that. Once they have that done, then they have 180 days, and they have to come up with a report on stuff that they found to give to the committee. That some of it's going to be public, that there are these things going on that are going on. And, there's a, for some of these, I'm going off on a little tangent, but for some of these programs that even like the first one with Harry Reid, that they actually went into, they had all these different programs that they worked on. And again, all this stuff is online. I'm not an expert, right? But you can find.
No, of course.
Really,
but the thing is that so many people can put stuff online, which really that's where. Yeah, but there are those people are out there. They're too smart for. I mean, and the bottom line is, and then again, this is a science thing. If you're able to figure out how to move through space at that rate, then there's no way you could even come close to their understanding, of which I couldn't think that somebody would automatically be evil or be like, in a couple of years, we're taking over Earth. Just give me some chance. I got to get my nails fixed first.
Sure.
It's like they don't think, human beings always think like, hey, they think about us like us. Now think about if it's 1830 and how people thought. And it's like how much, they didn't even know that like germs were around, let alone, think how many times they saw stuff in the air. They're like, no, that's probably just Jesus.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you can, and that's the other thing too, is you go back to like biblical times and things before that, where they were writing about stuff that's flying in the air, flying discs that are floating around up in the sky,
Yeah.
And that's been something that's been going on.
Well, King Tut was born in Arizona and then moved to Babylonia. You didn't know that?
Oh, no.
That was in the Steve Martin song. Yeah. But no, I'm saying is those people, the beings have been flying around forever. They're just they're just too damn smart, because, you know what I mean? Like our highest level of technology is basically the wheel to them.
Well,
You know what I mean?
you know what, and I think, I think 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, going through this stuff, I certainly could see it more. Now, the way our technology has come on, it's like you start thinking, okay, did we really make those quantum leaps? Did we get some information dropped on us to give us these things? I mean, these phones, the way we move, the way our speed is, the way technology is. Now you say, okay, this type of thing, if tickled with the possibility of UFOs, like at this point in time, people would not be nearly as surprised as we would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago. I mean, now we're holding our phones in our hands. It's basically teleporting to each other, right? In a weird sense, like our world's like these things that we're doing, and it's like becoming more feasible to be feasible, I guess.
Well, yeah, but again, it's like my whole thing is science, and I'm it's like Einstein proved that you could. And remember the movie The Planet of the Apes? That's what Einstein said. It's like in that movie they go on a rocket ship really fast and really far away, and then basically by the time they come back, it's like 500 years later. So like because they go so fast, that's how you time travel. You can't go back in time. You can only go forward in time by the speed. So it's like that. I believe it. As far as astrology goes, and I love these astrology people that want to tell you everything about yourself. Now, here's how I believe that works.
Which is a big deal right now with the full moon and all the retrogrades, by the way.
Right.
I'm into that.
Here's how that works. Our brains are mushy, our bodies are mushy. When you were in utero with your mother, there was a certain gravitational pull in the universe that creates like the human being to be born in a certain way in their brains, because think of how little we know about how the brain really works and how diverse it is, and the fact that most people only use like a small part of their brain, and if you're a Trump supporter, even smaller. But the point is that it's like you don't use a lot of your brain, and we just don't understand it. So I think the gravitational pull of the universe, which is constantly moving as we speak, changes everything. If you have to have science on all this stuff, and you can have all the controversy and all the conspiracy. It's science.
But we know that's fine. It is okay. But we know about wormholes now. We know that the gravitational pulls are certain things. We were starting to see these things differently than we could before, right? I mean, look at oh gosh, what's the name of it? The Defense Intelligence Agency. They dropped 2019. They have titles of programs that they were trying to work on, and this is through the Freedom of Information Act. But they had one called oh gosh. Well, anyway, there's one research topic was traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one. Let's see. Oh, he was okay. The guy who ran that was probably, sorry, I'm still looking at some of the stuff, but Project Stargate, the guy led something. It was founded by Harold Puthoff. I don't know, but Eric Davis, remember that name of Earth Tech. So he did some. There's another one called Invisibility Cloaking. There was Is This Real? Headed by German scientist Ulf Lennart. There was another title called Warp Drive, Dark Energy, and the Manipulation of Extra Dimensions. But for physicist Richard Abusi, you read that?
No, I said I've done that. Easy.
Yeah. So I mean, these are actually right. This is stuff that's been done over the years. I mean, these are the things that work. An invisibility cloak. Are you kidding me?
That's an easy one. I mean, they do that. That's the whole thing about Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, I was watching something called The Order on Netflix, and they have an invisibility spell. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Well, remember, it's like as time moves on, and think about it, in like 1975, when I was a little kid, like if you had a calculator, it was like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, and think about what like the greatest computer of that size of a calculator could do now. I mean, it could it could run Yugoslavia. You know what I mean? And the technology is getting more advanced, and it's like there's no question these people have been here. But my thing is like, even with their advanced intelligence, even with the ability to do whatever they do, someone would have a picture or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's no picture. I mean, except for the alien autopsy, but that just looks like when I worked at the lobster restaurant, and I would see some of these people from like, come over from, far, far away, eat a lobster like it's an alien autopsy. I mean, that shit was gone. And, but I don't believe it. I don't believe that there's an alien autopsy. I don't believe that there's space junk. It's, they would tell you.
You don't believe in it at all, huh?
No, I absolutely believe those things are flying around all the time.
But you
I
don't
just
think they're
don't
here.
think, no, I don't think they're like meeting and like, look, Gorg wants you to remember he brings peace, yet you must like give us all your peanut butter. I mean, to take back to the Sector 8. I just don't think that's happening. What I do believe also is that many, many solar systems in the universe are going through what we're going through, which is a growth spurt in technology. And in the same sense,
Wait, you think a lot of places are going through this?
Yeah, I do. Did you know how big the universe is?
I would say different. I'd say it's different.
A guy wrote a book about how like there similar like planet stuff that have gone through this, where they've basically created climate change and wrecked the planet like we're doing right now. That I believe. I mean, they may be looking at us and going,
Wait,
like,
who wrote this book?
I can't remember, but it was the guy who was on NPR. It was, which I think they vet who comes on there. It's not like Joe Rogan.
So to explain this, though, he wrote a book saying that.
He wrote a book that there have been like similar universal like planets like Earth, because there's a certain zone, and they can look at those zones and these places in the universe and go, that's an area that could actually have what we have.
For what we see, for what we can see.
No. To have life live.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
You have to have the right things.
Right. But
right.
What they've
right
seen.
Recipe to like have life. And so basically what happens is like these planets come and go through this like, technology boom, and then they end up like snuffing themselves out through like, destroying their own planet with like we're doing, with poisoning it with carbon and all this junk and smoke and gas and oil burning and cows farting and like dragging up the earth like
we kind of fart too.
Which by the way, anybody who's watching, we have a guy on next week who's a wine expert. Like I'm a wine guy, but he's definitely a big time, and he talks about how like
he's one of 260 or 70
the earth apart. Yeah, pulling the earth apart and letting all this carbon and by letting the ice caps melt, you're letting a bunch of junk even. So it's like progressively getting worse. I mean, in 50 years, we could be in major dire circumstances. But, people on the right say that's all bullshit. So that's what I believe in. And I do believe right now there's those aliens are flying all over the place. They're doing their thing, but they're too smart and too technologically advanced to go, let's meet with those guys. It's like, why? So okay. That's my thought. And you can tell Joe Rogan that.
Well, that's great. I disagree. I think that there's certainly something going on that has been going on for a while. I don't necessarily say it's a Roswell type thing. I don't know about like all that. And they said it was some weather balloon to hear the nukes going off, that they had microphones so they could hear the sound of nukes in the Soviet Union or something. That's what it was debunked as. I don't know if that's whatever. I don't know if I go back to that being the thing, but for high ranking individuals to be pushing to have these things for specific reasons. And the thing that they always talk about, the thing that they'll say is certainly it's for what's the number one thing, right? They're going to talk about security, right?
Yeah.
National security, number one, period in the story.
Yeah.
They're more concerned about what's flying around in their area that outflies them, that they have no idea what the hell it is. So look, there's an increase of, I don't even know, 6,000 sightings or something like that over the last year to this year, something crazy like that. But again, it's, we also have more drones now. We have more flying things in general now that are floating around. So there are certainly going to be.
How many satellites are flying around?
How many satellites? But, I saw a satellite, I guess you call it a satellite shower, maybe a couple months ago, where you could stand outside and you can actually watch for a certain time. You could see 6 or 8 of these satellites come flying through. It was pretty cool. It was neat. Whatever. It was cool.
Yeah.
But they were, it looked like fast moving airplanes that were quiet. those aren't the things that I think people are saying. I mean, it could be, but I mean, they could be 100%. People are like, oh, I didn't hear anything. It doesn't sound like a jet, but you know, that is certainly something that, yeah, it could be. Even if you took 5% of those were that, so it's something. But I mean, you know, these guys have talked about, you know, getting, you know, I should probably just read this damn letter that he sent to the Senate. I don't know. I feel like I should just read it.
Who that Harry Reid?
Harry Reid. Yeah, that Harry Reid wrote to, and yeah, let me just read it real fast. It'll take like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Everybody out there, if you want to hang in there, whatever. But this is on June 24th. I think it was formed in June in 2007. It was formed, but this is in June of 2009. This is to the Deputy Secretary of Defense at the time from Harry Reid. Beginning this past September, the U.S. Senate has mandated that the Defense Intelligence Agency assess far-term foreign advanced aerospace threats to the United States. The scope of the program interest covers from the present out to 40 years beyond. In order to further our effort in recognizing emerging disruptive aerospace technologies, technical studies are being conducted in regard to advanced lift, propulsion, the use of unconventional materials and controls, signature reduction, weaponry, human interface, and human effects. Since the Advanced Aerospace Threat and Identification Program and study were first commissioned, much progress has been made with the identification of several highly sensitive, unconventional aerospace-related findings. Given the current rate of success, the continued study of these subjects will likely lead to technology advancements that in the immediate near term will require extraordinary protection. Due to the sensitivities of the information surrounding aspects of this program, I require your assistance in establishing a restricted special access program and a bigoted access list for specific portions of the AATIP. In order to support this national effort, a small but highly specialized cadre of Department of Defense and private sector individuals are necessary. These individuals must be specialized in the areas of advanced sciences, sensors, intelligence and counterintelligence, and advanced aerospace engineering. Given the likelihood that these technologies will be applied future systems involving spaceflight, weapons, communications, and propulsion, the standard management and safeguarding procedures for classified information are not sufficient. Even the use of conventional SAP protocols will not adequately ensure that all aspects of the project are properly secured. Although not every aspect of AATIP requires restricted SAP read-on, the following portions should be maintained at the restricted SAP level. The methodology used to identify, acquire, study, and engineer the advanced technologies associated with the AATIP. Specific methodologies used to study unconventional technology may require nuanced approaches that will undoubtedly be of significant interest, if not a top priority for adversarial foreign intelligence security services. Undue attention by government or private sector entities not involved in AATIP or any international interests will directly or indirectly interfere with the daily AATIP mission and perhaps threaten the overall success of the program. So the allocation of personnel, support, and oversight. Due to the highly specialized nature of the personal involvement with the AATIV, the overt acknowledgement of their participation in the program will lead to an unnecessary security and counterintelligence risk. So in other words, they don't want anybody, can't really tell who's going to be on this thing. Occasional assistance from specialized individuals within DoD, the scientific community, or academia may be necessary from time to time based on a demonstrated subject matter expertise. Adequate protection of their identities or affiliation is critical to avoid unnecessary scrutiny. Without the appropriate restricted SAP protection, the cost associated with a compromise would be significantly higher than the cost associated with the compromise would be significantly higher than the costs associated with the properly administered restricted SAP. Protection of industry partnerships and participation is critical. Public awareness of an industry's AATIP affiliation may discourage that industry's further participation with the U.S. government in this program. In other words, don't say shit to the public. Application engineering. The nuanced manner in which some of these technologies will be collected, engineered, and applied by the U.S. may require senior level government approval. These decision makers must be afforded the necessary time to make strategic decisions by restricting access to the big picture or overall intent of the program to those on a strict bigoted list. Associated exotic technologies likely involve extremely sophisticated concepts within the world of quantum mechanics, nuclear science, electromagnetic theory, gravitics, I don't know, and thermodynamics. Given that all of these have the potential to be used with catastrophic effects by the adversaries, an unusually high degree of operational security and read-on discretion is required. So Well, almost done now. Due to the expertise required to carry out the almost done. But you're hearing it though. You're hearing it. This shit is crazy. Due to the expertise required to carry out the objectives of this program, we will require a small, specialized group of DoD personnel who are dedicated to performing the SAP-related functions and executing programmatic requirements within the program. It is essential that the government and military personnel who are already involved with this program are assigned to further support, but these individuals are currently possess the appropriate security clearance and already providing unique support, AATP, whatever. Ultimately, the results of the AATIP will not only benefit the U.S. government, but I believe will directly benefit DoD in ways not yet imagined. The technological insight and capability gained will provide the U.S. with a distinct advantage over any foreign threats and allow the U.S. to maintain its preeminence as a world leader. So that was just for him to introduce to get this thing going. They only did was $22 million supposedly, but then they shut it down in 2012 supposedly. Then they found out they kept it going. It's been going. It's continued to go. And now they admit it's still going. There's certainly something, and maybe it's because of what they're doing, but there are multiple other aspects of what these guys are saying that are like, yo, I think the stuff you should be looking at. We're not saying there's stuff there, but if there's stuff there, you should be looking at these vehicles that we found. You should be looking at this material that we found if it's there. Like Reed's saying stuff like that outwardly. Like these guys are saying stuff is going on. Stuff is going on.
Well, so stuff has been going on forever. And now they're just like, they're trying to, the thing is now, like, remember, it's like 20 minutes ago in our time was like, like, think about the technology, what drives technology? War. World War I, basically, it's a biplane that goes probably 70 miles an hour, maybe a little bit faster. They drop bombs. World War II, at the beginning, it was, England had some pretty good ones, and Germany, by the end of it was way better. And then you go into the jet age. And so, it's like our weapons just are able to see more because they're flying around at way higher speeds than they were 100 years ago, obviously. So they're starting to see this stuff and starting to be able to capture it, photographically, and like, it's been there the whole time, and these things have been watching us the whole time, and they probably go to like the other universe 10 over and do the same thing. Because I'll go back to the beginning. If you have the technology to go through space, because it's like the closest thing is like 100 light years away, how fast are those guys going, and what are they doing to get from point A to point B? Because they're not living on this planet.
Yeah, but but I don't think it's about speed per se, right? I think it's, like you said, it's about bending time and space. That whole ordeal.
Well, bending time is about how fast you go.
Right, but if you can bend it, space, if you can bend space and time, if you're bending it, you just go, right? Isn't that the whole thing where you basically bend a piece of paper and now you go from over here and having to go here to you just go like ding, ding, if you poke a hole from here to here. Now all you do is a warp, like a hole, right? And you're just jumping from one place to another.
That's I'm sure stuff like that's available. Yeah, they probably do that. Like, go down to the wormhole, take a left at the black hole, goes about 100 gilgagongs, and then take a left and you're there. It's like, the thing is, that's probably as simple as it is, because let's say if I was explaining to you what an iPhone does, and you're in 1970, Q, how's 1970? What's going on? And it's like, you'd be like, what? They don't have, like, you can do that on a thing? Yes, I can do all that on this. I can do this. You can talk to people and so it's just like, it's all technology.
Well, it is all, I guess, but it is all technology. It's just where's it come from? But look, you get someone like, again, Harry Reid, you believe that crashes of objects of unknown origin may have occurred and that retrieved material should be studied. He didn't say that the crashes had occurred and that retrieved materials had been studied secretly for decades. No, he was just but then there's another, all these guys are talking about off-world vehicles that might be in possession of the U.S. government. All these people that have worked for the government and said this, these people are signing off, man.
Right.
So, again, it's one of those things where I think we're sitting in this world, and I think they like to, I don't know, it's like there's a slow push of blips to get us to start talking about or seeing or be. I mean, again, and we can talk about movies and shit like that, right? And be like, oh, we've been programmed to be ready for this type of thing for what Steven Spielberg. You know, I mean,
Well, but my favorite space moment was the end of Cheech and Chong's second movie, where they obviously didn't have an ending, so space people come and they give Chong space coke. So Cheech tries it, and he literally like crashes through the wall, like because it's so intense. But he's like, "Hey man, I got some space coke." I mean that like it's you know what I mean? It all is technology. It's all like, and it's all there. It's all happening. And I just don't think that there's like some imminent takeover or whatever. Like, I don't think we're worth it. You know what I mean?
you know,
I don't think they're going to turn us into their soldiers or their slaves. I mean, they already figured it out. They won the game. You know what I mean? It's like they're flying around space. They're going through wormholes to get here. That's like, I'd love to be able to go to Hawaii an hour. I'd be happy.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? It's like,
but what if you don't have Hawaii and all you got is a boat? I mean,
well, yeah, then it takes forever. But I'm saying that's us.
No, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying, okay, so what if you don't have a planet and all you got is a boat? What if you don't have an island to go to and all you got is water? Like, what
do you mean? Well,
you know what I'm saying? How do we know that their planet, they didn't jack our planet up and now they got to go find a place to live? I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I would assume that there's many different places to like crash in the universe. I mean, think about it. What, like, our world is like out of trillions of stars. You know what I mean?
Well, and I guess, no way. You know, I guess, and then the other thing is like, you know, they're like, okay, well, the nuclear bombs fell on Roswell. We started doing nukes, right? Which opened up holes and energy in the fabrics and all that stuff of time and space.
And why did they go to Hiroshima or Nagasaki?
But then why? I mean, isn't like every sun like a fusion, like a nuclear bomb, fusion bomb going off?
Well, that's the thing, is the way a sun works is basically, this is another Einstein thing. It's like E = mc squared is what happens in the sun. And that's how it's like regaining strength and building. And it's like, that's E = mc squared is how you build a nuclear bomb or do nuclear energy. And it's a really amazing thing. And there's only been a few people that are that intelligent to understand those kind of like theories and you know, it just,
they just started building the first nuclear fusion facility, I think, in Italy. Like an actual, like, I don't know exactly the full meal deal on it, but I think it's something just massively big, huge. I don't know, but they're building it right now. The first true one, apparently, in Italy, which is going to change.
Well, I mean, it's like, you know, in what they've done in our lifetime is incredible compared to what they'll do in another 100 years, if they're able to, if they can, like, if the world can survive climate change, which, you know, there's definitely, you know, we're starting to see signs of like things getting worse and inhabitable, and like, you know, coronavirus could simply be, you know, an offshoot of like, you know, a frustrated climate that's Earth, you know, complaining.
Mother Nature, man. It's like white T cells coming to knock out, you know, the sickness. You know what I'm saying? In that sense.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we live in a very unexplained world, but again, it's like, just because we have an internet, you know, it's like, you know, anybody can have their say, and anybody who like has the ability. Now let's go back to Joe Rogan. You know, I remember seeing him at the Improv, you know, when I would do shows with him, and, you know, his whole thing was deconstructing. I mean, he's basically a classic deconstructor. And I'll tell you, when you would go on the road in LA, you know, or Chicago, and it's like, I'm not trying to sound like a pretentious jerk, but like, you know, they're a little bit hipper in comedy. You know, it's like LA, New York, Chicago. You can do a smarter thing. People get it. They're more apt to like understand certain bits. If you go out in the sticks, and I did many times and bombed wholeheartedly because I would try to do my LA act in the sticks, and they wanted you to deconstruct something. They wanted you to go and say why being married is annoying, or why kids are drive you crazy, or go, you know, it's like That
You have
if
to
you look at the
relate. You have
great,
to relate to what's
yes, you got to relate to, and like that's what Joe Rogan does. He just deconstructs everything and tries to relate on that level. Now, it's like there's a lot of people who could go on a show and say, well, that's not true because this happens and that happens. That's not sexy. That's not telling you anything. My favorite bit of his in the last couple weeks is when Bill Burr, who's an amazing comic, went on there and he goes, well, what do you think of the mask? He said, oh, look, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. You're sitting in front of an American flag, smoking a cigar. I'm not going there. And that's my reality, is like, leave it to the scientists. And they don't even know a lot because it's such a new thing, but they have a much better idea than some jerk who's showing videos of him shooting moose in Hawaii or whatever he does and eating like raw meat with like broccoli every day of his life to prove what a man he is. It's just like, doesn't do it for me. I need a little bit more. I need science. I don't need, half-ass conjecture, and just conspiracy theories.
well,
They couldn't deal with the fact that one guy pretty much, or maybe a couple guys, killed Kennedy, but I don't think it was some big conspiracy with like, Johnson, Lyndon Johnson and the Wings and like who would, remember Oliver Stone was pushing all that bullshit back 20 years ago.
Well,
People,
yeah.
hey, that's true.
Well, I mean, it's hard to get off a couple. I mean, it's still part of the stuff they did with the studies with the gun and the whole.
No, I know, but if you look at there's a great documentary and they played it over and over and how like the guy
angle.
was a great shot. The
Yeah.
moment of time was perfectly timed. It wasn't that hard for him to do that. He was a lunatic. And there's like, think about like the technology we have then compared to 1963. It was almost nothing. They had a phone. Hello?
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I'll tell you what the
Radar.
other aspect is. I mean, I think it's challenging the status quo of the government in such a fierce way. I think there's what did we say on something? There's only two true presidents that really dove into certain changes on such a magnitude of levels. And I mean, JFK was going to drop down and take out the CIA. That was his plan, to take away the CIA. And then you had Abraham Lincoln, who abolished slavery and did some stuff, and what they were both killed, right? So I don't know, man. I mean, we could say whatever we want to say, but I mean, there's smoke no matter how we look at certain aspects of things that could tie together.
But the guy who killed Abraham Lincoln was an actor who was a huge supporter of the South. He was basically, in reality, now this is reality, he was like the George Clooney of his time. He was a very popular actor. He was a good looking guy, but he was also a very big supporter, just like George Clooney's a big supporter on the left. But it's like, he was able to go inside that place with minimal security and shoot him. But Lincoln used to walk around. They all used to walk around. It's like you could walk and go, hey, this White House is really cool. There was no like guy would be like, get the hell out of here. It's like you could do that. And it's like, that's a big difference. JFK was like, they didn't have the security detail that they have now. It's like that couldn't happen now. They wouldn't let that happen. It happened to Reagan. Some idiot, my friend Charlie, who I don't know if I always tell you about, he when he went to Yale, his lab partner was roommates with Jodie Foster. And he goes, I remember Jodie kept saying to this girl, or she was saying to his lab partner, this wacko keeps bugging the hell out of her over and over. And Jodie Foster wanted to be in with, like, just be a normal person because she had some celebrity before that, obviously. And this guy was, he was crazy and he was using her as a reason to say, like, I'll show her how much I love her. And he almost killed Reagan. And the guy, the Golden State Killer, had a relationship go south, so he ended up killing and raping all these people.
Wait. Let's bring it back. We're talking about UFOs and the government. I'm not talking about raping.
I know, but I'm saying it's like I'm talking about conspiracy and like people trying to let things go a way out, and sometimes it's the simplest answer, and people hate that.
Well, they don't like the boring aspect of it. Now,
right?
That was, well, look, I mean, that's what Rubio said. Or was it Rubio? I just said, yeah, Rubio that announced that. I mean, that was one of the things he said at the end of what he was talking about was, listen, we're going to check it out. If things are, are what they are. We're going to look at it. He's like, but it's very possible, after all this, it could be a very boring response. It could be a very boring answer. So it's not like he's going at it going, hey, there's extraterrestrial aspects going on here, but there's certainly something extra going on.
Well, but like, to add to what I was just saying, though, it's like, I would say 75% of people that have died young or under weird circumstances have conspiracies behind it. It's like, well, this is what really happened. Jim Morrison was, he went to an island. Kurt Cobain was murdered by what's her face that chick he was married to.
Oh God!
Just like anything, because people hate the fact that these people were depressed and on drugs. Yeah, it's like, it's unfortunate, but that's what happened. They didn't. There's no conspiracy.
Well, but I mean, that's the first thing we try to. I mean, look, that's why the conspiracy theorist aspect blew up in March. I mean, they did the study on how much, all this stuff blew up like 700 times what usually kind of traffic got from some of the conspiracy stuff that was going on, because people are so out of their minds, they have to come up with something. They need to have something to hold on to because nothing's making sense. So the mind comes up to just whatever will grab onto to make sense during a trip out session with yourself, right? Yeah. Now, and I get that. I mean, I understand that. I think,
and the reality in China is that they just messed it up. They look at people, in my opinion, as very expendable because they have billions of people, and they messed it up and they let that thing get out of there when they should have contained it themselves when they saw what was happening. But of course, they don't care because they're China and they're all about, like, the elite who runs that country, keeping a hold on the Communist Party, keeping a hold. They don't want those people to get crazy. I mean, look what they did in Tiananmen 30 years ago or whatever. It's like, they're, and they messed up too. And then our government completely messed up because they looked at it as political instead of science. They're still saying that guy's a jerk, the Dr. Fauci.
But the bottom line is, if we didn't have so many situations of lies and deceit, and then saying, oh, okay, just kidding, this actually happened. 20 years later or 30 years later, you find out this, you find out that, because of freedom.
Like what? Give me two good examples.
Well, I mean, JFK.
Well, what about him?
Well, how did he die? You still say he was? You say he was?
I think Oswald acted alone.
Okay.
I know that's not the sexy answer or what people like, but it's like, it's
never
been proven. But one of my favorite Woody Allen jokes. Woody Allen used to do a joke. He'd be like, "I'm reading a nonfiction version of the Warren Report right now," because it's like he was joking that it was like, people wanted more answers. I saw a documentary which, like, they scientifically showed how, because of the Zapruder film, that the guy could have gotten 2 shots easily on him. And they're like, oh, how could that go through the thing? Well, it did. It just was one of those things that worked. People hate it because it just was too easy for that guy to do that.
I don't know. What I watched was not that. The angles of the shots were off.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it came right down, right at him. Boom, hit him in the side. Boom, took half of his head off.
One hit him in his throat.
Yeah, you see that the first one, yeah.
Right, one hits him in the throat, and then the other one blows his head off this way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was like comes up from like, it's like he's stuck in the throat like this, and then his head pops back like that, and it came in from like at an angle. Like,
yeah, but the thing is, the guy shot him, and then he did the rifle and shot him again.
Shooting down on him.
Yeah, so like this.
Right. So how does his head go this way?
Because, I mean, it's like, think about like being like shot by.
Well, we could go ahead. We could,
The thing is, there's a really good documentary that is narrated by Bill Curtis. It was on like A&E, and they ran it. It's like, watch that. I'm telling you, it's the most down-to-earth scientific thing where they finally can use computers and math and time lapse and go, this probably happened. Now, there's always a chance that somebody was in the grassy knoll, but it's like, I just think if
he pissed off a lot of people.
Well, so did Trump, so did Clinton, so did Bush. I mean, it's like they all do.
Trump ain't gone yet.
Yeah, but because they have the kind of security that's 100 times more intense than they did back then.
Well, yeah.
I said, you used to be able to, like, Harry Truman used to walk around DC. I mean, and they would get
now
pissed.
they know every word of everything that's going on at all given time.
Once the thing is,
remember that used to be a conspiracy theory.
well, remember that Manson kook almost would try to shoot President Ford, well, and I'm telling you,
yeah, but
it took him till Reagan to go, maybe we need to do this better.
Yeah, but I'm saying the conspiracy theory was that they were recording a bunch of stuff that we used to talk about. Oh, they're listening to everything we say. They're listening. That came out to be very true.
Oh, well, the eavesdropping. Yeah, there's definitely
very true.
Well, that's just spying.
What do you mean that's just spying?
Yeah,
it's a conspiracy theory that came out that people said, no, that's not true. That's just a conspiracy theory. Came out to be real. People now, anything like that, anyone, and there's more. We can go down the list, but I'm not in mind right now to come up with that argument.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, there's
you
not
you lied to me once. You lied to me once, and now you think, okay, well, now it's conspiracy theory that come true. People's minds start twisting. Things start happening. You become more, susceptible to. But I mean, there's some that are really, I don't know. There's some really interesting stuff out there. That's
absolutely. And I'm not saying that they don't they don't exist, but I think again, these days conspiracy theories are a good way for people to get rich and get attention on the internet.
A lot of likes, a lot of.
I mean, and I always tell my kid this: everything we live in is to make money for corporations that advertise. That's all it is. You and I have to give money to our favorite political people so they can go make TV commercials that we have to watch. So it's sort of like we're eating our own shit. You know what I mean? It's like, why do we have to watch so they can get clicks? Now it's clicks. Everything is clicks.
Well,
how many clicks did you get?
Same thing with like advertising on sports, and the same thing. We're watching the sports that we need to have that they could pay for their people. We're paying for all of this shit.
They're advertising, and we're paying $20 for a beer at Dodger Stadium so they can pay a guy $400 million to play baseball, which I think is disgusting.
Which dumbs us down though all the way across the board. I mean, we can start talking about all the money we spend on all these things we want for us, and anyway, to make ourselves feel good, or to disappear for a while, or to believe in something, or to feel something, or to go somewhere else than where we currently are in our minds or in our bodies or in our places. I mean, that's the consistency between all of this, that conspiracy theories are there because people don't want to believe in the reality. They don't want to believe in the reality. They want to believe in something else. They want to be taken away. They want, I don't know.
Right.
We all, we start getting a little, things get hotter. It's like frog being in a boil, man. This earth is getting hotter. People are starting to boil and they don't realize it. And I think
there's a lot of people on earth, and they're like, they're being, the other thing Einstein said is like
by TV and radio and
right.
Starting to just
and it's like
boil, man.
Dude, you walk down the street in LA, it's like there's no one person that doesn't have this in their hand. They can't even put it in their pocket, So
I lose my mind if I walk out the door without it. I mean, now I don't. I used to, when I was a GM, when I was running 100-hour weeks and shit, right? If I left my phone, man, I was having a fucking heart attack. Literally.
I know, and I'm not saying that I don't do it.
Right.
So,
but anyway,
this is a talk that we could keep going.
Yeah, no, we don't need to come down now. But you're saying no to UFOs or any extraterrestrial aspects at all.
No,
you're saying they're just not here.
No, that's not what I said. I go, they're all over the place. But I don't think they're like going to take over or going to like turn us into their sex slaves or like eat us, because they're so far technically advanced.
We're doing that to ourselves.
We would do that. We would do it. Yeah. I mean, like, we would look at like, Star Trek as like something real, but like we don't, they're too smart for that. You know what I mean? It's like they went through that. It's like they've gone through therapy already. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, so yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I mean, I'm curious if anybody's out there that watches this and can shoot comments or got information or any of that stuff.
Look at the comments. I got my battery's running low. Let me plug in.
There's not really any comments. Nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about us out there, Patrick. Because that's a conspiracy theory, by the way.
Right. Okay. Well, I care about us. People are liking it. They're liking it. So, good. But I don't want to run out of juice.
No. So, but
Gorg doesn't want me to listen.
Yeah. So let's talk about next week. What we have coming on. Give a little.
Yes. Start talking and I'll finish. Talk.
What do you mean?
So
Wow.
well, no, so I can get my bag. So I got to plug in my juice,
Oh,
so I don't.
okay.
Yeah. So
Just
start
for
telling them.
yeah. So for everybody for next week, we've got a really great Mindful Monday coming up. A friend of ours, Brian McClintock, who is was the star of the Psalm documentary on Netflix. I believe on the first, second one. I think he's been in all of them. But he's one of 275 master sommeliers in the world that know wine better than anybody. I'd say he's probably top 100, top 200, but he's a very well-known guy. And he changed his course of his life in the last couple months and made some major changes and decided to exit
I'm back.
the master sommelier world. And it's a great story and a phenomenal person. And it's the first time that he's going to talk about that, about what he's doing publicly other than what's on Instagram and all this other stuff. So it's a really exciting time. Very good guy, an amazing conversation is socioeconomically, psychologically about the world, about wine and how it all relates, and just life and energy and spirituality. It's going to be a hell of a show. It's going to be
Well, and it is good. It is a cute. It is going to be a doozy. I'm a wine guy, as you know.
in hospitality
And
world in general. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like he did the movie Psalm. He kind of made it happen. We'll talk about that. But that was such a phenomenon in wine world stuff that he's basically calling people on doing the wrong thing, and then he's actually, like you were saying, is moving light years ahead into like what's the next thing in wine and how to make it without wrecking the earth and all this stuff, because there's so many things we do to make a buck. Again, it goes back to what we're talking about in alcohol, as is like such a giant money maker that they'll push everything aside, people, land, like pollution, just to make a buck.
Everything but we'll go into all that, right? We'll get into.
But anybody's into wine, this is a must watch.
Well, the hospitality world, anybody in the hospitality world, everybody's seen Psalm. I think most people that I know that's in the restaurant world at all over past 5 years worth of time have watched this movie Psalm. I've watched the documentary Psalm, and Brian is one of the main cats on here. So
in that movie, Q probably made 50,000 people want to be Psalms. That's a lot. It's a lot.
At least I think they say the opening release was 6 million downloads on iTunes.
Yeah.
Just on iTunes.
I mean, it's like, yeah. So that is going to be a real doozy.
Yeah. So we're honored. We're honored to have them, and honored to have them in our world and our circle is really a special place to be. So
in space, they don't have wine. They just have a ball they rub, and it gives them like.
What was that?
They rub a ball in space. They don't have wine.
Is that what it is? They don't even have a ball. They just think about it and it happens. It's like
right, exactly. And then their space penis.
Kind of like my moon back here.
Right. It's a great moon. It's a great moon.
I'm actually rubbing my back right now.
Scratching your back on the moon?
Yeah.
Can you point out the Sea of Tranquility?
Is that right? Is that right? It's one of these over here, isn't it? It's not.
Is it? I don't know.
I think it's bigger. Yeah, I thought it was. Anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was. Anyway.
And what about Thursday?
Thursday, you tell me what we got going Thursday, brah.
We've got a headliner, Deborah DiGiovanni, who is DiGiovanni, I should say her name right, who is hilarious, has been on Conan and Late Night and all this other stuff, who's one of the funniest comics out there in LA and is definitely doing very well. And she's going to headline, and we got some special guests too. I'll save those, but she is amazing.
If you go back to last week's show too on YouTube or on qlovesyou.com, or just head to the YouTube channel or rewatch the video. We had a nice little interview last week too. So.
Oh yeah. Joe Biden, of course.
Joe Biden. We had Joe Biden on our interview last time. So go back and watch Joe Biden comedy, and then watch this whole UFO thing again if you're just catching this on the back end. For those that are starting to watch it, it was all UFOs. We were all UFOs.
Yes.
I'm doing Joe Biden.
Okay. Jill, am I doing it right?
Jill! Anyway. All right. Well, listen, I think it was fun. I appreciate your lack of believing me. And
no, here's the thing.
The letters.
This is let's end this correctly.
Okay, fine.
You believe that there's a whole thing and a mechanics of stuff going on. I believe that all those things are flying around because we see it all the time. People are taking, you see it. I just think they're too smart to get caught or be like, they're like, because if they were able to get caught, they'd be caught and they would get out. You were not, I just don't think you can hold, you know, like with JFK, somebody on their deathbed would have said, you know what, Joe Schmo shot the second rifle, you know, and no one ever did.
But unless you're like JFK and you look at his family bad luck that everybody dies in his entire family, unless they said, if you fuck with us, we're going to kill your entire family. If you say anything, you know, JFK's family, you go look at the bad luck tree that they got going on and tell me that there isn't something going on with that family. Just saying.
Well, I mean,
so I would shut the hell up because I don't want my kids. I don't want my bloodline disappearing, bro.
I don't know. I mean, it's like, dude, they assassinated JFK. They assassinated Martin Luther King. They assassinated his brother.
Assassinated his brother.
You know,
at JFK. His son goes down or whatever it was. Well, Junior went down in a plane crash.
Yeah, because he was doing what he shouldn't have done.
Just had another daughter or granddaughter, or whatever it was, just drowned with her kids just a couple months ago, like in a river accident or something. Bro, we can go down. You can look it up.
Yeah.
But listen, let's get off the scam thing. This next week is gonna be more factual. It's not gonna be built around conspiracy theories. We'll build it around it's spirituality and factuality, and kind of a nice blend of the two. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. So thank you very much for taking the time, Patrick.
Thank you, Q. Thanks. This was actually, I enjoyed this talk.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, just remember, full moon tonight. Good energy for the next month for everybody out there. Get ready for some movement next couple of weeks. It's going to be good. We got a lot of retrogrades, a lot of happening.
We're taking it apart, and then we're going to put it back together again.
Bring them up, boys and girls. Get your game on. Open your
play
head
with
up.
your feathers. Play with your feathers. I don't know what that means.
Light as a feather, stiff as a board. No, that's wrong.
Right.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Peace.
All right.
Godspeed.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.